When I was 16, my mother died very suddenly of meningitis. And a few years later, my father died of a heart attack. And my father, for whatever reason, left our family home to his new wife of 9 months. So me and my siblings were not only orphans, but we were homeless too. And as my dad was an only child and my mother's family were back in Ireland, we actually didn't have any blood relatives in this country who could take us in. But luckily for me and my little brother, some family friends opened up their home. Now, these family friends didn't have much. They had a tiny little semi-detached council house with 3 bedrooms in Watford. And they also had 4 kids of their own. So when me and my little brother turned up, that was 6 kids squeezed into that family home. But what they did have, and what they understood, was love and kindness. And that kindness that they gave in that time of trauma and darkness for me and my brother gave us safety. So that eventually I felt safe enough to go out into the world. And I remember vividly thinking, I never want to go back to that place of darkness and untethered ever again. And so when I married and had my children, I decided that I was going to be the matriarch. My family home was going to be the place where anybody could turn up, eat, sleep, stay for a few months. I mean, I never knew who was going to come out of the bedroom in the mornings. But it made me feel good because it was the right thing to do. It made me feel a decent human being. Each Monday morning, I would leave that family home and I'd go off to work. Now, I worked in the retail fashion industry, and this was the 90s. So I left behind part of me when I'd leave that family home. I'd leave behind the kind and caring Mary, because in the world of business, even fashion, there isn't a place for that, really, especially not in the 90s. This was a time of big money. This was a time of big brands. This was a time of very big egos. And this was a time of some very big shoulder pads. What we did then was you focused on profit and growth, profit and growth. And people, they were disposable. Planet, God, I don't remember anyone ever discussing the planet. Well, why would you? We had so much to sell and so much to buy. But I was really good at this. Really good at this business performance, this aggression. So good, by the time I was 31, I was on the board of Harvey Nichols as their creative director. I had money, I had power, and I had some very nice clothes. That way of working, focusing on growth, focusing on profit first, it doesn't leave space for human kindness. But that's the way we have worked for 30 years. And that's the way I continue to work. I even opened up my own business, started my own agency, took those codes with it, and the money came in. And then my world changed. In 2012, my partner gave birth to our baby son. That was on the Monday he came into the world, and on the Saturday, my elder son was going out into the world, off to university. I cried every single day. And it was more than the emotion, the love that I had for these 2 young men, or the change in my world. I realized as the days went on that it was a kind of grief. And then I realized it was a fear. A fear that this young man was going to go out into the world of business. And all the love and kindness and the family that I'd given him, he wasn't prepared for that. And so was this little fella in the future. I remember sitting on my elder son's bed while we packed up his stuff in his bedroom, and he said, well, talking about his future, I'm doing economics, philosophy, so I'll probably end up, I guess, Mum, should I go into the city, into finance? And all I remember was this, no! No. Because that is a world, my darling, built on greed and gain. That is the world of work. That's the world of business. That's the world I've worked in. That's the world of most work. That's the world I slightly lost myself in. And that's the world that has to change. And I'm going to start with me. I'm going to start with my business. And so I did. And so we did. My team, 6 years ago, we just went right back and said, how do we want to work? How do we create something, a business, and it wasn't easy, where, yes, we want to make profit, we need to be commercial, but how do we bring human kindness and decency together? And we made mistakes, there was plenty of tears, and then we clicked, start with the people. And we did. And we started to write down the values that we as humans held dear, values that made us feel safe and that we could bring our total, authentic selves to work every single day. Values like transparency and honesty, like collaboration. It's we, not just me, getting to the top of that ladder. It's us in this together. Values like empathy, listening, really understanding each other's lives, and instinct. No, what do you feel? No, tell me what you feel. We don't have to back it up with data and logic all the time. And we realized that all of these values that we created together just laddered back to one word, kindness. Human kindness. It's not a word you normally see in business because people think it's fluffy and it's soft, but it's strong. It's strong because it has roots. And when you give kindness to people and you make them feel safe, those roots go deep and they grow like little sunflowers. And their heads go up and they open up and they become their fullest self, their honest self, free to speak, free to be who they are. And you grow a business and you make money, because I still like wearing nice clothes. I knew we got it right, apart from the joy in that business every day that I wanted to be part of. It was one little time when one of our creative team, his grandmother was really ill, and she was in the north of England, and his family couldn't get to be by her bedside. So we said, just go. And he was online. Christ, we live in a viral world, and he sat there and he worked from there. And then a month later, this package arrives in our office, and it was a box of wonderful luxury biscuits from Marks and Spencer's. There was a little note with it, in a spidery, little handwritten spidery writing that said, to all at the Portas agency, thank you for letting me have my son Bradley, my grandson Bradley, by my side. It saved me. Love, Bradley's Nan. And so I wrote a book called Work Like a Woman, on the journey and how we changed a culture. And I called it Work Like a Woman because for the first time in my life, I was working to the values that I, as a woman, had and believed in. And they were the most powerful. And as we grew more successful, we started to apply this philosophy to our clients. Now, I have a consultancy and an agency in a couple of cities, and it's called the Portas Agency. Funny that, isn't it? And we work with big businesses, from retailers, consumer brands, and we plug them in to people culture, so they connect. And notice I say people culture. I don't say consumer culture, because calling me a consumer, you just limit me to what I buy, and not who I am. And those days of rabid consumerism, the mindless consumerism that we've been with, are starting to fall and crumble, as are the businesses and retailers that were just feeding the beast. People have come to realize that that tenet of capitalism, that more is better, isn't. We know that more is killing our planet, and we know that less is better. And we've come to care for our planet, and we're now caring and demanding more from the businesses within it, because we lost our way in the world of business in search of more. We lost what it was to be decent human beings. And now, the indicators are everywhere, from how we're changing, how we're living, and how we're buying. Just think about it. The backlash against plastic, the backlash against fast fashion, the backlash against those big corporations who we don't trust anymore, the global warming marches, the gender pay gap, the rise in volunteering, the doubling down on food waste. It's all been bubbling away like this subculture, and now it's come together in this tidal wave of anger wrapped in kindness. How we buy has always been a cultural mirror to how we live. Let's look at the last 30 years. We always break them down into these cultural trajectories at my business. So we'll go back to the 80s when I went into business, the time of status symbols. Yes, I've got the Gucci bag, it says I am. I've got the Burberry shoes, I've got the Nike trainers. Everybody thinks I'm kind of wealthy and cool. And then as that got a bit gauche and a bit over the top, we moved into that, and we moved into the era of status stories. We were still buying as much, but it was more, oh, this blouse. Oh, I discovered it in Peru on my travels. And then the food industry got into it as well. God, they were brilliant at it. That goat's cheese I bought. Yes, I bought that from this lovely farmer's market. It's only once a month. It's this farmer was there. I'm not sure you could call him a farmer. He's only got 2 goats, so the cheese is very rare. Well, now we are entering the biggest change ever. We are entering the time of status sentience. Sentience. To feel, to perceive. And instead of us mindlessly buying from and being sold to, we are moving into buying into businesses and brands that share our values, into businesses and brands that share what we know we need to do. And our future is going to be a very different balance. Those businesses need to know that it's planet, people, in that order. Businesses that buy into the values that we share as shoppers, as family, as relatives, as colleagues in every part of our life. It's the only way to do business if we want a future. And it's going to be the most valuable type of currency there is. And we all need to play a part, all of us. This is a shared responsibility. Yes, reduce. Yes, reuse. Yes, recycle. But we now need to restore, we need to regenerate, and we need to respect. In Eastern philosophy, sentience means respect and care. Because of this, we are entering a new economy. At Portas, we call it the kindness economy. An economy built on the stuff we care about because we have to. And the only way that we are going to change this world is through more of that. The legacy I want to leave, and the legacy my team at Portas is, that we leave the world of business better than we found it. And the only way to do that is by spreading kindness. And you know what? Kindness is contagious. And boy, this world needs more kindness. Thank you.